Okay, so you have 4 questions for the big 4, right? What if you're one of the Congress people?
That's right. That's right. So I liked the questions they asked, but I felt that,
they're not sharp enough?
yeah, you could be sharper.
Okay.
You could really make these guys squeal.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so for Tim Cook, I would ask him the question, Steve Jobs says that Apple doesn't need to make money with the App Store, that the 30% is just to cover the costs. So I would ask Tim Cook, how much money did Apple make from the App Store last year? Right?
That's a good one.
It'll be a big number, and then I would say, okay, what changed?
Okay.
Now, for the Alphabet CEO, okay, I would say Larry Page once said that the goal, what made Google great, their goal was that to get the users off of Google as fast as possible. Okay, is that still Google's strategy? And if it's not, well, then what changed?
Okay, this is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Google right now, the top 5 hits are almost always Google's own products. Yeah. For Amazon,
Okay.
I would ask CEO Jeff Bezos, I would say, hey, does Amazon use seller data to figure out what products they should private label themselves? Okay. You heard stories of these other vendors selling something on Amazon only to have Amazon make the same product for cheaper a few months later and just take them out of business. Facebook? I actually have 2 questions for
Okay.
Facebook. I really tried to limit it to 1, but there was 2 I just couldn't.
Choose one.
Yeah. And the first question I would ask Mr. Zuckerberg would be, can you explain to me why you paid $1 billion for Instagram? Yeah. How is it that a company that's only a few years old that has no revenue is worth $1 billion? I'd be like, okay, sorry, I don't really understand this internet economics. Can you explain to me why it's worth so much money?
Okay.
Okay. And I think there's no way to understand Facebook's monopoly without understanding why Facebook absolutely had to buy Instagram for $1 billion. He would have paid $10 billion for it if it needed to. Okay. And then the other question, this one is probably like an unfair question, but what I would ask is, hey, Mr. Zuckerberg, can you, does Facebook believe that Apple and Google are uncompetitively blocking Facebook's access on mobile? Yeah. Let Zuckerberg explain to the congressman
Why Google and Apple are anti-competitive.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I guarantee you he's got all kinds of good stories to tell as to how these guys are monopolistic. Yeah.
Do you have answers to your own questions?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the answers to all of those questions are that, I mean, essentially, well, we're a monopoly. So like the first 3 questions would be, so Tim Cook's question, Sundar's question, Jeff Bezos' question, like these all are, yeah, we use this stuff. We're a monopoly, and we can make more money if we use it.
You just want them to confess.
Well, I want them to explain in simple language why they make the moves they make. Because, it makes business sense for them to do it. Why? Because they're a monopoly, right? If you weren't a monopoly, you could not possibly do that. You can't change your position, right, if you're not a monopoly on these issues. And then for Facebook, Facebook understands network effects. And if you have a very small user base that's doubling extremely fast, and they're doing something that looks like social media, then, I mean, just like Facebook did to MySpace, in a very, very short window of time, Facebook's gone. They're dead, right? There's no, if somebody can come up with a social network that's better than Facebook, there's no move Facebook has to stop it.
Right.
So they have to either copy or buy. And when they copy and the copying is not working for some reason, then the only other chance they have is to buy.
Right.
Yeah. So they had Facebook Messenger. They still bought WhatsApp. Why? Right? Why do they have to buy that? Right? I mean, it's a very deep question. And then your App Store policies. what's going on behind the scenes. Oh, I bet Facebook has the world's best stories. Like, Apple is probably blocking Facebook everywhere because you know Facebook wants in to every piece of data on that phone. Facebook bought a VPN provider and they installed it on people's phones, and they were like sucking all of the data from your phone through a VPN and analyzing it. Like, Facebook did this, and Apple kicked them out, right? And I'm sure there's really interesting stories of Facebook trying to get on the home screen on Android. I know there's some good stories there. So there's such juice that would come out if the senators or the congressmen, were a bit more. Yeah, they should use the other, like, use these 4 CEOs like against each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
22 years ago, right after the Microsoft hearing, the Department of Justice sued Microsoft. So I think it was the Senate that held the hearing. This time it's the House. So I think the Senate was working with the Department of Justice to collect more evidence and then to get Bill Gates and other CEOs to confirm with the evidence they collected. So what I think this hearing, functions as a evidence collecting meeting. And then all of the Congress people, they just want to get a yes. That's why a part of the hearing was so disappointing, because Jeff Bezos and Pichai, they wouldn't say yes or no. And then they know that each Congress person has only 5 minutes, so they were exhausting their time by giving long and boring stories, so they get interrupted all the time. But I think it's very important. So the Congress people were not asking for their agreement. They're not asking like, oh, do you agree with me or not? They just want an yes, so that the Department of Justice can take legal actions.
Yeah, it really felt like they were just sort of asking the questions that they wanted to get on the record. And hey, go answer this. And I don't really care if you're going to answer this way or that way, but just I'm going to ask this question. It's going to be on the record, and I want to know if you can answer it or not.
Yeah. And most of them try to avoid the direct answers.
I thought Bezos was the best in terms of not being too afraid. So, like, I felt like all of the rest of the people, like the other 3 CEOs, they were like trained by lawyers. Like at least their answers to me, they were dodging questions, going around stuff. Whereas Bezos was like, nope, not aware of that in my company, but we'll do a review and figure out if it happens. Right? Whereas the other guys were like telling about stories about, childhood in India or whatever it was. I was like, it was so horrible.
It was. They were playing different kinds of safeguards.
Yeah. I just wish people could be authentic. Like, these guys have built great companies, and they should not be afraid of having built a great company. And they should not be afraid of having to defend the policies, because they're playing by the rules. They really are. It's the Congress guys. Like, it's your job to set the rules. Like, if you think, like if you think Google or Facebook is being bad at business, well, change the rules. That's your job.
That's what they're doing right now.
I hope so. I hope they do their job.
Yeah, we'll see in a month.
Yeah.
The report is coming out in a month. We can talk about it later.
That sounds good. Cool.
Okay. So if you have questions for the Big Four, leave comments.
Thanks.
Yeah.